Welcome to Global Citizen Life Podcast. Today on the show, we have Dwight Heck. Dwight, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on, Sally. I appreciate it.
So, Dwight, you are the founder of Give a Heck Financial, and I absolutely love that name, even though and it coincides with your last name. And back in 2002, you kind of came to a crossroads of life, which had you leave the IT business and get into the financial insurance company and things, and you kind of didn't know anything about that when you made that decision. So what kinda happened for you to make that big transition?
Well, like we were talking about before you hit record, I had a character building moment that happened in my life. I had some health issues which redefined my mindset. So back in the year that 9/11 happened in 2001, I had a severe health crisis, which literally defined the fact that I was on a hamster wheel. I was going to work, go home, get paid. I was a six-figure earner. I had fooled myself into thinking I was happy. I was a workaholic, and that all came crashing down. And the next thing I know, I couldn't drive for many months. I couldn't work. And I literally was struggle. I was on the struggle bus. I was looking at my finances and I had some savings, but not enough. And a friend of mine, a good friend of mine that I'd known for years, that had actually encouraged me to go back to school, to electronics engineering school, and then get into IT, open my computer consulting firm, and do all that stuff. He reached out and said, I think you'd be really good in the finance industry. I know I heard from you when we got together and talked last for a coffee that your specialist doesn't want you to go back into that stressful industry that'll just cause you repeating health issues, maybe not initially, and you'd be a lot happier. And he says, I think you should look at getting into the finance industry. I said, well, I don't know really think anything about finance. Why would I want to do that? He said, brother, he says, we've been friends, right, for a long, long time, and your life's in a mess. Like, he was that type of friend. He would just be
Mhm.
blunt. Your life's in a mess, right? We can help you out, because he had quit what he was doing and got into that industry before me, a few years before me. I says, we can teach you how to make your own life, right, more purposeful. He didn't use those words. I'm using those, but we can make your life better. And once you do that, you'll be able to go out and help families do the same. And I said, well, what would make you think I'd be good at that? He says, you're great with people. You're good at conversation. People, it doesn't take long for them because I've known you so long, and we had done business together as prior as well. He says, you're great at breaking down barriers, making people feel comfortable. And that's what this industry needs. We're trying to break that norm of press hard three copies, right? Transactional. We're going to teach you how to be more relationship driven. So I got into the industry, and it was a shock to the office that I ended up initially joining to get trained. And here's why. 6 weeks into me getting licensed, I fired my trainer and said, you guys aren't doing it what I thought you were going to do. I want to be a relationship driven person. So I started reaching out to other offices because it was a giant consortium of different brokerages. I started asking questions. I started reaching out to product providers. I started just being curious and started building my own puzzle, complete, of what I wanted. Took all the pieces and put it together in something that I could envision doing for others that I had never got. Use myself as a template, had conversations with people about the things they didn't like, and I just went forward and did it. And to top all that, I did something that they had never seen. Usually it takes 4 to 6 months of studying to go and write your licenses, to be able to do what I do. I got the books on Thursday. Friday, I registered for the provincial exam for the people that are in the US state, and was told that I was crazy. I'd never do it. I had not cracked a book. I cracked a book starting Friday, had my kids joint custody, had them that week, plopped in movies from Blockbuster, studied my butt off, dropped them off. It was there that they went back on Sundays, studied all night, didn't sleep, went in, wrote 8:30 in the morning at the provincial regulator's office, passed the exam, went into the office where I got the books from the guy, and he looked at me and says, "Oh, that's okay. You'll pass next time." I says, "Why do I have to write it next time?" And I pulled it out from behind my back, and his jaw dropped. Again, I purchased the courses on Thursday, and then coming up Monday, I wrote it. Why did I do that? Because I was sick and tired of being told that this is the way life has to be. And I wanted to push outside of my comfort zone, outside of my norm, and prove to everybody, mostly myself, that I'm not defined by the fact you say it takes 4 to 6 months. And I did it. And then I developed a company now that's 22 years later that just goes out and defines the fact that what's gone on in your life is important. I can help you and I can relate to you. And then as I 22 years, all the stories I have from my clients to make it more relatable. I don't think there's anybody's fingerprint that is the same, just like their financial snapshot, but there's similarities, commonalities, so that I can make people feel at peace and help one more person live intentionally and get off that hamster wheel when it comes to living a comfortable life.
What would you define as a comfortable life? Because that's a and I know that's a broad question, but what do you define is a comfortable life?
For me, I'd say my comfortable life is based on my core values. I'm a very firm believer that you have to have core values. I'm not saying you have to have eight, 10, or whatever. Mine are very simple. There, of course, they break down into more specifics, but I live a core value, so that ties to my comfortable life of faith, family, and work. So for me to be comfortable, I need to have my faith. You don't have to be faith bearing like me. My clients that aren't some worship trees, whatever, but you have to have some sort of faith that life is there to be enjoyed. There's good in people, that there's good in yourself. There's good in, just your surroundings, and have that faith in life and faith in for me, it's faith in life and faith in God, right? And family. Without my family, I used to be that workaholic. So all of a sudden, then are you spending as much time with your family and friends? Are you missing special events? A friend's having a get together and, oh no, I got to do this. Sorry, I can't make it this time. You've just missed a moment in life of comfortable living, of being there around people that invited you, that obviously like you, and you could be in that community, in that love. Maybe it's not friends, maybe it's family, and then work for me. So for me to have a comfortable life, I need to have it's impossible to have a balanced life. For those listening, you can agree or disagree. It's impossible to have a balanced life. You can have a structured life where you try to do as much, and for me, those three categories, but it doesn't always work. So for me, at one time, it used to be work, work, work. And then I woke up, had those health issues before I got into this industry, and realized life's in session. This isn't a dress rehearsal. So for me, comfortable life is having a balance between my faith in humanity and God, my family, and then work. And am I perfect at it? No way. Right. But I try to stay within that focus of when I think of stuff or I'm going to do stuff, is it worth it? Why am I doing that? Am I doing it to please other people? Is that going to make me uncomfortable? That's not a comfortable life. Now, sometimes we need to get out of our comfort zone to succeed, but sometimes we do things against the grain to please others. For me, a comfortable life is about pleasing me so that I'm happy, so that a happy Dwight can help more people. I can be more supportive of my adult kids. I can be supportive of my grandkids. I can be supportive of my clients. But if I'm all up in arms and I'm not level in at least three areas, I'm not living comfortable. So for me, a comfortable life is ensuring that you enjoy life, not look back and go, oh my gosh, I worked so hard these last 8, 10 years, or maybe 8, 10 months. I got a promotion, and I'll look at clients and friends and say, so tell me about that journey. Anything great about it? Did you learn? Did you have some fun? And a lot of people will be disconnected. They don't even know what went on. They've missed
Right.
that journey of life. They've hit their destination, and then they're already shooting for the next success. They don't even celebrate. That to me isn't a comfortable, happy life. So I don't know if I answered your question, but That's my
Oh,
answer.
you did. You definitely did, and there's a few things there that I want to kinda comment on as well, is I'm so glad you said that there is no balance. I before have said there is no such thing as work-life balance. When people think of it as, I spend 50% of my time at work, 50% not, or one third, one third, one third. I mean, that's just not the way life works. You may have moments where it might ideally be kind of that perfect, but I always say that it's more of a teeter-totter. Right? Sometimes work needs 80% and we're there more and we got stuff going on, but then eventually that's got to change. And other times, like family needs to get that 80%. Our own alone time sometimes gets 70% or however it is, but I find it's never like an equal kind of balance, more of that teeter totter where everything's kind of back and up and down a little bit. And as you said too, it's important that you take care of you, and I've said it a few times, and some people when they just take a clip of what I say, then of course there's the people who kinda go off on it, but if it were not being taken out of context, but even when my daughter was young, I would always say, "I am the most important person in my household." I am more important than my partner. I am more important than when I was with my husband, more important than my daughter. Like, I am the most important because if I'm not good, how am I a good partner? How am I a good mom? How am I a good friend? How am I like, if I'm not good, I'm not good to any of those things. Now, it's not like I'm the best, like arrogant type thing, but every single person, you included, like, everybody needs to be number 1 in their life, and they need to make sure that they are happy. They need to make sure that, they're eating well, getting exercise, taking time to do things they enjoy doing. I always say to people, and I tell my daughter this, um, often, or as she's was kinda growing up when she had boyfriend, I'm like, "You know what? It's great that you have a boyfriend and you do things with your boyfriend, but you also need to have friends that are not your boyfriend's friends and that you're not like, they're not co-friends, so you do things with your friends. Then you have time with your boyfriend, and then you have mutual friends that you do things together because you need all of those different things. And, you go to work, you do that, you're studying school, like all of those things go into that kind of teeter totter, but each one of those things needs to kind of fill our own cup for us to be good for everybody else.
Well, and how many people don't realize that they give, 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 and people take, take, take. They surround themselves with energy vampires, and they become that worst thing. And I've been there, being that people pleaser, trying to please everybody else, and your love tank, your energy tank is always depleted because everybody's sucking away from you and nobody's giving back. And yes, those listening, if you give, you should get something back. Not every time, but if you're always on the receiving end of getting your energy sucked out, they're taking it all back and they're not giving you anything back. You have shallow friendships, shallow relationships, and it's not healthy. And ask yourself this. I practice something and teach my clients a principle called the 70-30 principle. And basically, think about those you communicate with. Sally and I are communicating right now. And I think to myself, when we're just about done the call or we're done, I can't wait to talk to Sally again. She's such a delightful person. She makes me feel good. I get the warm and fuzzies, and I just love her. She's so amazing. But once in a while, Sally and I talk, and we don't quite get along, but it's not morally, or it's not morally apprehensive. It's not anything that's really terrible. It's just we have a differing opinion, and that's about 30% of the time. And she might feel the same way, but I still can't wait to talk to her the next time, because I know once in a while there gonna be something that's a little overwhelming for me, but majority of the time Sally's a great person. Once Sally and I have conversations, whether it's, and it doesn't even have to be face to face, that can be what I read on social, like it can be an article you read, it can be just something that you've said that I've overheard you tell another group. And at the end of the day, if it hits 50-50, Sally and I are no longer friends. If I get to a point where the teeter totter, as you mentioned, is level, it's not healthy. It's not a good relationship, because I'm thinking to myself, last time Sally was great. This time, oh my gosh, she's she made me feel terrible. And then the next time it's good, then the next time it's terrible, or maybe it's two, three times in a row it's terrible. I'm exiting stage right. Not everybody in your life needs to be in the same season as you were prior. Sometimes people are meant to be in your life through this challenge, this difficulty. They fill the void, you fill the void for them. And then it becomes negative and toxic, falls out of that 70-30, and I let go of them. Maybe that
Right.
makes me a terrible person, or maybe it makes me somebody that wants to prioritize me because I have so many people around me that are in that 70-30 that deserve the best of me. But I deserve the best of me too.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you said that because there's a saying, and I won't get it exactly right because I don't know if it was a number or a bunch, but it's like we'll meet probably thousands of people in our lifetime. Now, obviously, we're not gonna be friends with all of those people, but a number of those people we are friends with for a reason, right? Whatever that reason is, it could be work related, it could be our kids go to the same school, it could be, kids are going to soccer practice, ballet, or we take an art class and we're friends with them while we're in this art class. But there's a reason that we're friends. And of some of those, when we're out of that kind of reason or stage in life, most of those people we're no longer friends with. They were friends for that reason. Then there's fewer number of people that we are friends with for a season. So the season is longer. And again, it could be like our kids are in school, so it's like the whole school years that we're friends with their parents or something like that, or we're at a job for 12 years and we're friends with these people for 12 years, and then once we leave that job, we're not friends with them anymore, and we were friends for
Bye.
12 years, right? So then there's a season, so there's a reason, tons of people we're friends with for a reason, and you can throw the acquaintances in there as well. Then there's fewer that are the season, and very few are lifetime. And lifetime doesn't mean we met as a kid. It's from whatever time that we met for the rest of our life or their life, whichever happens to go first. But we have very, very few people that are lifetime. And that's the way it is just in life in general, even if you're not making great changes and leaps and bounds in your life, like that has to be an expectation that people will fall away. Some people are only there for a reason. Some people are only there for a season. And then as we are changing and become different people, and some of us change a lot. I've gone through huge changes in my life over the years. And some of them like big changes and pretty quickly. And I know that sometimes, we have to let those people go for us to become the people that we want and for us to have around the people we want. It's it's like saying it's the definition of insanity. If you want a different life, but you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're with the same people and you're expecting a change, how are you gonna change when you're not changing who you're hanging out with, you're not changing your thoughts, you're not changing the things that you do every day? Like, if you're doing the same thing every day with the same people, you're never going to change.
Yeah, it's true though. And it's even for those listening, you it might not even be something that you'll like, but families aren't always meant to be together forever either for life. And what I mean by that is you can have siblings, you can have aunts and uncles that fall off the wayside, and you'll automatically hear, well, they're blood. So that doesn't mean anything. So we have some genetic makeup, some DNA that's the same. It doesn't mean that they deserve, and yes, that's harsh. It doesn't mean they deserve to be in my world, in Dwight's world. They just don't. I don't want to be in their world. They don't deserve to be in mine. And it's just time to walk away. Well, there, what if you see them at family events? Be polite, to be cordial, time
You could
yourself
always be kind,
effectively.
just
Yeah,
that
kindness
to
kindness
me.
isn't hard. Yeah, kindness
Like,
isn't hard.
kindness
Just be
isn't hard.
kind.
I'm around people that I just don't like, and if we're in
Me
public,
too.
I will be polite, and I will even say, "Hello, how are you?" Let them chat, "Oh, great, nice to see you," and, I turn and walk away and then talk to somebody else. Like, there is
Absolutely.
no reason that you cannot be polite or kind even to somebody that you don't like. So family functions, like, That
Learn your time
how
boundaries. I
polite.
go a half hour before. I do some polite chit chat. I eat the meal, stay a half hour, 45 minutes after. And I literally will tell people I have plans. And sometimes people will say, well, did you actually have plans? When I coach people, I'll say, absolutely. I'll never, ever will lie. Well, what was your plan? My plan was to protect my inner self by leaving. That's my plan. Or I'll say to them, well, I've got an appointment, right? What's the appointment? Nobody ever asks you, but people will say to me, what are you're lying then? No, I don't. I have an
I have an
appointment to
appointment
protect
with me.
myself. Yeah. You know what? At the end of the day, there's you got to realize to your listeners, my dad's one of 18 children. My mom's one of nine.
Wow.
On my dad's side of the family, I have over 61st cousins. How many do you think I talk to?
Goodness.
Maybe one
Not
or two of them. They have their
wow.
own lives. They're totally
Mhm.
not in my wheelhouse, right? My mom's side of the family, I got, I don't know, let's say 35, 40 cousins. Talk to only a couple of them. At the end of the day, family, some of the best people I have in my life are not blood related. They just aren't, but I call them my family. They're my brothers, they're my sisters, and I can't wait to see them. I just get joyful. I get that warm and fuzzies that I mentioned earlier. And we define what we want out of life. Again, our brain doesn't know the difference. Learn the difference to tell yourself, to program yourself, to protect yourself, to move forward in life, to be joyous, to be happy. And if you have those slumps, and like you've had and I've had over the years, even 2024, I would say, every single year, Sally, how many people you hear say, get lost 2024, 2023, whatever. I can't wait for the new year. You know what? The new year is
Yeah.
still going to be full of things, but how are you facing them?
Mhm. How are you responding? And I always say to people too, it's a couple of things. So, we help people move abroad and do all these things. And part of the thing I always ask people is, why do you want to move abroad? Like what is your reasoning? And there's a variety, and a lot of them is like part of mine when I left Canada was weather. I hate Canadian winter. It's way too cold. I don't like it. Um,
Yeah.
and there were some other things and stuff like that, but I always ask because we need to know why. If we're just trying to escape and we're trying to get away from ourself, well, yourself will follow you wherever you go. If it's just financial, which I can understand, that's part of it, but you can't just move for financial reasons, especially if you're moving to another country, because things are a lot different in different countries. You have to think of culture and religion and time difference from friends back home, or how often are you going to go back to visit? And there's a number of things. And I've helped people move to reduce taxes. And there was a guy recently talking to, and he's like, well, I could go here, I could do this, or I could do this, and this is low, and this is zero, and this is, and I'm like, just wait a minute. Let's just step back a second here. Now, I understand the big picture of what you want to do is to live in a tropical place, lower cost of living, looking at places to reduce taxes and stuff. But what kind of lifestyle do you want? What conveniences are you looking for? Because yes, we can design things so you're not paying any taxes at all, but you're limited to certain countries and certain things, and there's rules and stuff like that. It can be done, but are you going to be happy? Do you wanna live in these places? Do you want to have your company in a place where, okay, great, you've got no tax, but what's the banking like? How hard is it gonna be to get paid, to get payment from not from clients, those types of things. Like, we also have to look at what we desire, what we want, and what makes us happy, and so we need to take away those people sometimes, those things sometimes, and realize certain things we don't really want because, well, yeah, that nice dress made me feel really good the first time I wore it. Now it's just a dress in my closet. Or, oh, yeah, I wanted a bigger TV because look, now I have the biggest TV. What was wrong with the other TV? Oh, I'm going to move because it's cheaper. It's like, but do you like the culture, the lifestyle, the weather? And it is coming back to what makes us happy. And sometimes we have to make some hard decisions because I get it's family, but I have toxic family members that I've had to cut out because I was like, I no, I need to protect me. I need to be happy, and I can't be having your negative energy come into me, and then that's all I'm thinking about and worried about and this and that. I'm like, "Can't do it. I need to make sure I'm good to then do the things that I wanna do and be happy." And so there is family that we've been given that if you have great relationships with them, great. I think most families there to teach you lessons, and some of us just aren't getting the lesson. And then we have the friends that are our family. And even those ones, as I mentioned earlier, they come and go depending upon what you want and the life that you want.
Yeah, but people don't understand because the life you want is purposeful living. People just don't grasp it. We're not taught it. Our school systems, it doesn't matter if it's in Canada, US, around the world, they're teaching us to be workers. That's what it
Mm,
is. It's a giant daycare system, a babysitting service that doesn't teach, it teaches people's skills so you can be a great worker, maybe go to university, be a, get a degree, be a great worker, but they don't really teach us life skills. They don't teach us to value ourselves enough. They always tell you you got to please your boss, you got to please your it's always about pleasing everybody. It's all programming, learned behavior that starts when we're little, continues on with school, comes out to our group of friends or our jobs that continually define what we should be and then make us feel bad for not fitting into their, oh, you're a square, you need to fit into this round hole. Right? We
right.
really aren't taught by people to value ourselves enough in our own life, and that life is in session. This isn't a dress rehearsal. We've got one shot at happiness, and don't wait until it's too late. And then you sit in regrets and you swim in them. And then your health
Mhm.
fails. Or you get in heavily or more heavily into addictions. I've seen it time and time again. They had addicted personalities. They worked Monday to Friday, weekends, it was partying, dreading Sundays because then Monday's back. And then they go into that back into that hamster wheel. They think, oh, I'll be good. I can wait until. And that until could be whatever, retirement, or I'll be good until I go on that vacation. Maybe they're not even retired yet. They go on that vacation, they come home, they're back in the
Right.
hamster wheel. They're not living a purposeful life. People think a purposeful life is having a defined 9 to 5 and 2 weeks vacation or a month vacation or whatever. No, it's not. Or waiting for Thanksgiving to get together, Christmas, right? Easter, whatever. Like to me, that's what societal norms have said. This is what you're going to live your life, and this is what
Mm.
it's going to be. And we're here to say, no, it doesn't have to be that way. You and I are both saying we
It should
deserve
not
so much
be.
more. Yes, we deserve so much more. And I'm through apologizing to others for
Mm.
my life.
And then it's interesting, then some of them I've gotten a few times, "Oh, you're so lucky." I'm like, "Lucky?"
Oh, I got a
And I've
story for you
gotten better
about that.
because before I used to get offended when people
Yeah.
would say I was lucky, and then I just thought, "Okay, I try to often, as best I can, to put myself in the other person's shoes or perspective, and so when it was lucky, I would get offended because I would thought, "This isn't luck. I have designed my life to be how it is. I have given up and not gone to birthday parties, missed friends' weddings, done, all these things. I have studied, I have been broke, I have done well, all of those things. And I've had me to blame and me to cheer on because the buck stopped here. Right? And it was all of the things that I have done and I continue to do that make my life what it is. I think luck, okay, I was born in Canada, so that's a lucky passport to have in the world. So yes, okay, I had some luck with that. Um, but otherwise, I mean, there's so many rags to riches stories around the world. Like none of those are luck. Everybody's put in the work, and then there's stories of people who were born, as the cliche is, with a silver spoon in the mouth, and they are not happy, and some have issues with drugs and alcohol and things like that, or just, like, self-worth issues. So I don't believe there is really luck unless you're lucky and you buy a winning lottery ticket, but you still have to go buy the ticket. So it's our life is exactly the way it is because of every decision that we've made. Now, I'm not saying that people haven't had crappy things happen to them because there's a lot of people that have had some really, really crappy things happen to them, directly or even indirectly. But it's how we respond to those things, how we react, how we let that kind of feed our mind and our memory. And are we living in that situation? Or are we saying, yep, okay, that happened. I learned this. I have grown. I have done this. And, maybe thank you for that happening. Maybe not. Maybe just like, well, thank you for the silver linings. And now I must move on. Or you can
Most
just
people
sit in
don't
it and
know how to
wallow and be the
reflect.
victim.
Most people don't know how to reflect on what they're going through, though. And what I mean, but sorry for cutting you off, but at the end of the day, we need to reflect daily, every single day. And the last time you should reflect is before you go to bed. Your most peaceful should be your most peaceful moment, being grateful and reflecting and saying, this is what I've accomplished. This is what went bad today. This is what I'm going to do different tomorrow. This is who I want in my circle. This is who I don't want in my circle. Oh my goodness, I fell back into what I said I wouldn't do. I went into my comfort zone, and I know I can't live in that comfort zone. I need to be outside of it. Just having those reflective moments, and I get that too, And the reason I chuckled about when you talked about being lucky is I back in 1993, I was at a conference down in it was in Salt Lake City, and a speaker got up on the stage and he talked about luck. And he says, I want you guys all to listen very carefully. And I'm going to say this twice. He says, luck is a loser's excuse for a winner's completion. Right. And he says,
Oh,
are you listening? He said, listen to this closely. Luck is a loser's excuse for a winner's completion. And I literally was just blown away. Like literally, there was people around me. They were drinking their coffees, chatting. They weren't really paying attention. You know those people that come to
mhm.
conferences. They're just conference junkies and looking for a fix.
Yep.
And but I
Mhm.
truly took that to heart, and it has stuck with me now for that many years. That I am the captain. I am the person that's going to define where my life's going to be, what I'm going to do. I'm going to have those character building moments. I'm going to have those trials and tribulations, like you said, the tragedies we go through, the shocking things that we weren't expecting, the real crappy moments. But the things that I accomplish, unless it's me saying I just won $6 million, that's luck, right? I just won six, that's luck. But my
Mhm.
daily life and what I've accomplished, oh, you got a number one bestseller, you were lucky. I heard that. Oh, you've got a top rated podcast, oh, you were lucky. Oh, you got a beautiful house, you were lucky. Oh, you got 5 kids and 5 grandkids, oh, you know what I mean? That phrase is so overused. And at
Mhm.
the end of the day, it had nothing to do with me being lucky. Maybe, yes, like you
But
said,
you
I was
did.
raised in Canada. I was born in
Yeah, but
Canada.
it's something, sorry to interrupt. It was something that another time somebody I must have been at a conference because I do love conferences because I love networking with people.
Oh,
But
so do
it's
I. Yeah.
you put in all the work for the luck to happen.
Hmm. Agreed.
Because
And at the
nothing just falls in our lap to anybody, even the overnight success, the overnight it's like, it wasn't overnight. Go back and look at the timeline. Go back like the overnight success movie star. All of a sudden it's like go back and look at how many movies they were in, or the musician. Go back and look how long that they were playing in their garage, in the basement, in
the
wherever.
grocery store they worked at, or the movie theater that they worked
Mhm.
at, or the coffee they slung, or the food they slung to get where they're at,
It's not luck.
right? No, yeah, I've had this conversation. I've spoken about it in large groups about luck. People, oh, if I could just be lucky, like, Sally
Create it.
is.
Create it.
Go out and create
Create
it.
your luck.
Go out and work for it. Be willing to fall, get a boo-boo, put a band-aid on, get up and walk forward. Most people fail. I've seen people work their butts off and they quit just before their success. because they can't see around the corner. Light doesn't go around the corner. They don't have a clue what's around the corner, but yet they had the wrong influences, the wrong tribe of people. They listened to the wrong people, and they fell and they tripped and they quit just before their success. They don't go to the conferences where they actually, as I mentioned, are there for the right reasons, right? To
Mm,
learn, to network. I've been to over 300 in my life, more than 300 conferences. And people go, oh my goodness, what did you learn from all of that? That I wanted to be better. And that
yeah.
I heard this at another conference and I never executed. Yeah, I had it in my notes, but I didn't execute. Sometimes repetition makes us wake up and create our luck, like you said.
Mhm. It reminds me of one time I was at a conference, and this was years ago, and the speaker, he got up there, and I can't remember who he was, but he called people out. He's like, "Look, I've been speaking here at this conference or at many." I think he was the speaker at many. He's like, "At many, and I see a lot of familiar faces. And I've been seeing these familiar faces for about 10 years, 8, 10 years or something, I think he said it was. It was a long time. He's like, "You're still sitting in the same seat, still doing the same damn thing you've done 8 years ago. Why are you even here? Like, why? You have all the information. You're taking all the notes. You're spending a lot of money coming back or being at all these other conferences because you're flying your hotel. You're like, and you haven't done a damn thing." And I was like, "Ooh, that's," but some people need to be called out, and for some people, it just kind of went in one ear and out the other, which brings me to another thing that you said too, is who are you listening to? And I am a true believer of do not take any advice from somebody who isn't living the lifestyle, and by that, I also mean, like, core values that you want. Because if you're listening to your brother Bob and Bob does not live the lifestyle that you want at all, why would you be taking Bob's advice? Because he's giving you the advice that has gotten him where he is. So if you don't want to live that lifestyle, don't take advice from somebody who doesn't have the lifestyle, and I say again, it doesn't mean like house, cars, whatever. It's like lifestyle, core values, happiness. If they don't have that lifestyle that you desire, why would you take advice from them?
No, it's true though. I tell people, they'll talk about their brother-in-law Bob or whatever. They'll talk about, oh, look at what they have and blah blah blah, and they'll go on and they'll use it as they're fixated on it. And I'll say to them, you know, I bet you, let's say Bob and Sarah. I bet you if you went and opened up the doors of Bob and Sarah's life and looked inside, you'd be disgusted because it wouldn't be what you want. I'm not saying their life's disgusting, but they're sitting and being negative all the time and telling you how to run your life. Yet if you've seen inside of theirs, it's disheveled, it's all over, it's just all over the place. Their life isn't consistent, there's no happiness. They're living a facade, they're living for that Friday night where they can start doing whatever addiction they have. Sometimes it isn't drugs and alcohol. They're addicted to television. They're addicted to whatever. They're
Mm,
living a life that, like you said, you'd never ever want in your whole entire life. So really learn to ask great questions. That's another thing. People don't know how to ask good questions. You get the
mhm.
answers you get because you don't know how to ask good questions. Sometimes you can just Bob will be spouting off, and I'll look at Bob and I'll ask him some good questions. I'll see how his body language is, and I don't need to open up the life and look inside. I can tell that, ooh,
Right.
this is going to be the first and last time I talk to Bob. But if I have to talk to Bob again, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be cordial. But
Mhm.
Bob's compass is constantly spinning. There's no direction.
Right.
And I'm just not into that, right? I'm into specific purposeful living and I'm not perfect at it, but I work hard at it.
Well, and I enjoy having meaningful conversations with people. Like, a lot of times, and it was something I had reposted because I had recently read it. I knew it before, but it was, if you can't explain why you believe what you believe, it's not your belief, it's someone else's. And when I read that, I'm like, that is so true because I always say to people and ask them, like, why do you think that? Why do you believe that? And I do it to myself. Why do I think that? Why do I have that belief? And a lot of the times it's I don't know, because that's what I was taught as a child. Sometimes it's, "Oh, because I had this experience, and because of this experience, I now think or believe this." Makes sense. But where I really enjoy having conversations, and that's why part of the reason why I love travel and living around the world is people have different experiences. They have different beliefs. And when we can have conversation, they say, "I believe A and they believe B." And I can say, "Why do you believe that?" And they can say, "Well, because whatever, I was taught this, my mother said this, my grandma, my experience, my whatever it was." And then I always find it fascinating, and it's not a conversation to ever try to change each other's mind. So I'll be like, "Oh, no, I believe this because blah, blah, blah." And it can be very interesting because you can then put yourself in another person's situation or shoes. I now truly believe none of my beliefs, nothing that I think is true. Nothing I think or believe is wrong. It's not false either. It's just mine. And if I was taken as a child at 2, 3, 5 years old and moved to a country on the other side of the world, my thoughts and my beliefs would be completely different.
Yeah, your truths are different. We all have
Yeah.
our own truths that are defined by what we put into our brain. And you're right. They've proven, oh, this kid grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, and they've used examples of people that were separated at birth or whatever. And one was with a
Mm,
wealthy family, one was with a poor family, and how much different their value systems and beliefs. Well, of course, because their outside influences are different. Their
right.
surroundings, their environment, their conversations, their lived behavior that they're seeing and living is completely different. At the end of the day, we just got to be wherever we are, like you said, when you move and you travel and you become a nomad or whatever you want to call it, a working nomad where you're living wherever, you got to adapt to to where you're at. You still have who you are as your core values, but you have to adapt, because if you don't, then you're just going to perish in where you're living. You're going to find that you don't fit, you don't click, and you're going to move on, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
But it's all back for me. It's all about realization, realizing that this is where I am. Am I stuck? Am I moving forward slowly at a pace I want? Do I want to run instead of just walk? Do I need to go back to crawl mode for a moment? Do I need, it's just, we all are a product of our environment. And I like what you had to say. That's great.
Well, and the fact of it is too is we can change our beliefs. We can change our thoughts. We can rewire our brain. We know it can be done. We can, I mean, we've known it for, it's interesting because we've known it for a long time when we think of the placebo effect. When, somebody took the sugar pill and somebody took another pill, and people who took the sugar pill got better, as percentage of them did, as well as people, a percentage who took the regular pill or the fake surgery and the real surgeries. And so it really is incredible the power of our mind and our thoughts when we believe something. And our beliefs, they're just a choice. Like we choose to believe things. And that belief in part is from what we're taught, what we're learned, and our experience. I mean, it's pretty hard to unbelieve something that we've experienced. But I mean, if you've ever been in a car accident, okay, you've been in a car accident. Do you believe every time you're gonna get in a car, you're gonna get into a car accident? Hopefully not. I mean, some people might if it was really bad that they're scared to get back into a car. Again, my mom was in a bad one once, and it took her a while to get back into a car and then to drive again, but she got over that because she knew, though, that, it can happen, but out of all the times that she had been driving for so long, it didn't happen, it was fine. I mean, the odds of it happening are low, but it can happen, and, I mean, same with plane crashes, same with all kinds of stuff, but we still do those things, so we still have to know that even though we think or believe something, do we let it control our life, or do we change our belief around it?
Yeah, we also have to, our belief system a lot of people I'd say in society have confirmation bias. They go and find people that are going to enhance their what they believe. If they're sad, they're looking to talk to people that are going to continue to make them sad. They're watching sad TV, listening to sad music. Everything about them is just sad. So they seek that out. And so if your beliefs need to
Right.
be restructured, you need to take yourself out of that comfort of wanting to find people that are going to make you feel terrible. Instead, look for people that are going to make you feel uplifted, excited. Is it easy? I'd be lying if I said it's easy. Especially if you've never done it. Now, for you and I, because we've been into personal development so long, it's easier for us to pivot and to change our belief system and avoid confirmation bias to get our thoughts in check to what we want it to be. Instead, to make it opposite of it, to be uncomfortable is something we all need to embrace, or we're just walking back and forth, creating our own grave till the day we die. Right? We're just creating a rut.
Absolutely. And just as you said, it's for us, it will be a little bit easier. It's still, as you said, it's not easy and it takes time. And yeah, there's times that I have negative thoughts about myself in my
Mm,
head,
me
mean
too.
thoughts about other people of what I would like to say or what I should have said. Or and then I'm just like even earlier today, something
Yeah,
from
agreed.
years ago was popping in my head. I'm like, I should have, and then I was just like, okay. Thanks for sharing, brain. That was so many years ago, and it's so over with, like, let it go. Nothing can be done about it now. And so even though, it's a constant, it's always ongoing, but I find the more we do it, or at least for myself, the more I'm aware, and it always starts with that awareness. And when those things pop in my brain, whenever they randomly do sometimes, which makes no sense at all, but I just like I literally say to myself, "Thank you, brain, for sharing. That was so long ago," or "That's not important anymore," and let it go. And then
Yeah,
I
it's
will
strange.
deliberately think about something else.
I have that happen as well, and I think to myself, where did that come from? I was 12, I was 18, I was 30. Like why? Why am I even thinking? But our brain is so powerful. It can be thought processes can be indexed from talking to somebody that was part of that time of your life, and it triggers things and we don't even realize it until we, like you said, just okay, thank you for telling me, now piss off. Right? For me, I've learned, especially I had somebody on my own show that is a forgiveness expert, and I've really started getting into what she talks about, being able to forgive others even if it's something you can never go forgive them face to face. If you might have been the issue and that's what's haunting you, but you can forgive that circumstance or that memory or whatever. And the more I do that, the less that popping idea, like those popping memories come in, like you're talking about. I just go like, okay, that's in the past. I've forgiven myself for that. I've forgiven that person. It's just time to let it go. They aren't thinking about me. Why, brain, are you thinking about them? Like, enough. It's time to move on. It's time to continue to climb, right? It's so amazing how our brain is, eh?
It really it's so fascinating. Like to me, it really is. And just like the brain and the human body, really. And I've always said and I don't know, like, from as long as I can remember, so even at a fairly early age, um, and I say that, I mean, that could be my teenage years or early 20s, I don't even remember when, but just never say never. When it comes to the body and the human mind and medicine, I say just never say never. I used to, teach first aid and CPR, and work as I used to be an EMT, and so whenever in classes people would ask things about, the body, the mind, the different illnesses and things like that. And I would always say, well, never say never. Somebody would be like, well, that could never happen. And I was like, there's things that just happen. And part is like we just don't know. Like, why can both us be at the same place and have a different memory of the experience? Like, even a movie. We both watch a movie, we're both into the same kind of movies, we both wanna go see this movie, we go watch it, and one of us thinks, "Oh, yeah, kinda disappointed, I just thought it would be better." And the other person's like, that was so awesome. It was great. And it's like, did we watch the same movie? Like, I just didn't think it was. And it's just, again, our own personal thing of what our brain thinks, even though we were excited, talked about going, saw the trailer, looked great, and then just the outcome was a different perspective.
Everybody has a different way of telling stories. Look at the books that have been written about history, and they've had people like you said. It's not even a movie. They're at a famous event in history, and somebody's recollection and stories of it is completely different than this other person. And then people go, well, this person said this. That has to be the truth. Well, no, this person said this. And then they start looking at the people and going, well, how truthful are they? What's their life like? Oh, you know what I mean? Then people try picking it apart or whatever the case may be. They found though throughout our lives, you can tell a story about when you were, let's say, 20. And literally that's based on your brains, how it coped with that circumstance, good, bad, or indifferent. And then all of a sudden, your parents around you and you're telling it to somebody or somebody that was there. That's not how it happened. It happened this way. And you know what I mean? At the end of the
Well,
day, my story is my story, and I'm sticking with it.
well, it's true, and I mean, in part, though, even when they talk with police officers after a motor vehicle accident, and they try to talk to as many people as quickly as possible because sometimes there's the angle of what was saw, there was the split second of what was seen, and there was just interpretation. Right? And so the scene part is one thing, but when we go back a little bit, as you were saying about history and people were there and somebody said something, everybody can relate to this on both sides. How many times have you been in, and most times it's usually an argument or a disagreement with somebody, and person A says something, and then there's an argument, whatever, and then later on, person B comes back to person A and says, well, you said blah, blah, blah. And person A says, well, yeah, but I didn't mean it that way. So there's the words that we literally say. Do we mean it the way we said the actual words? And then also, is the person who are hearing the words, are they hearing the actual words or their own interpretation of the words? So I always say there's three sides to every story. There's what was meant to be said, the literal words that were said, and the interpretation of the words.
No, it's true though. Look at all the emails that people over the decades now, or texts or social media posts. They read them based on what the 6 inches between their ears, what's their state of mind when they're reading it. That's why I always tell people, if you're upset at somebody that something they said, read it, wallow in it if you need to be upset. Go to reply to it, but don't send it. Calm down. Come back to it hours later, the next day. A lot of times you won't send that email, that text. You won't put that post up. Don't be that keyboard warrior or a person that projects out things and what your meaning is, and you'll say to people, you'll respond to comments or an email or face to face, well, no, I meant it this way, like you said. It's not a reality that people are always going to interpret your meaning. They're not gonna grasp it. So I just tell people, you know what, it's okay to be upset. Just don't open your mouth and remove all doubt, right? Like the famous saying goes, or at least the saying that I've been using most of my life, is better to be thought an idiot than open your mouth and remove all doubt, right? Sometimes it's just better to not respond. Like
Right.
I did a podcast, my single podcast without a guest here recently about keyboard warriors and how angry people are when they can hide. And you don't know what they were feeling when they sent it. I know how I'm feeling when I'm reading it, right?
Right.
If I'm at a level head and I read something that offends me, there might be some meat to that, right? There
Mhm.
might be some truth to it, but I'm still not going to get upset. I'm not going to respond. I'm going to read it later when I'm calm again. And if the same response happens, still doesn't mean I'm going to respond. It might just mean that I just lost some respect for that person and what they posted, what they wrote, what they said in their video. Oh, it
Right.
goes back to that 70-30 principle.
Mhm.
And that's the way I look at it, right?
And I also think though, like, I like that 70-30 principle because it's a good amount, but also you should never agree 100% with someone. Like, it just makes no sense. There if you're 100% always agreeing with someone, you're their yes person, and then I believe you don't have any thoughts, opinions, or beliefs of your own, or you're too scared to say them because you should never be 100% yes. Like, one of my best friends, we don't agree on politics. We have we have fairly regular conversations about politics, about what's going on and this and that, and we will disagree, and I think it's great because it also makes us think. Because we'll be like, "Oh, well, so and so said this, they're so stupid." They're like and the other person's like, "Well, what's so stupid about that? It means this." And we're like, "Well, no, I think this is what they mean by it." And so sometimes we're like, again, what was our own interpretation? What was actually meant?" And because I am more one side and she's more the other, we're obviously already looking through that colored lens of what the other side person is on or meeting. Like, obviously, it's like, "Oh, they're the other side, so it's negative." Right? And so when we have conversations, we have to take those away, and then we can actually talk about things, and sometimes there's threads that we both agree with. So if it's a topic and a rule or a decision or a law that they wanna do, there's we kinda pick it apart, but there's threads of it that we both agree with, and then there's also threads of it that we don't agree with. And I think that's great, and lots of times at the end, we'll either just say, depending upon the conversation, "I need to look into that a little bit more to make sure I'm understanding," because we are both thinking it's completely opposite, so either both of us are mistaken or one of us is, or the other, we just say, "Let's just agree to disagree on this one." And we say, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then we carry on, we switch the topic, and we've been friends for, oh my gosh, like 25 years. And so it can be done, but it's just done respectfully and politely and just as conversation. And I think we need to have more of those conversations to actually understand what people are saying because how great we are with technology and how far we've gone, I think it's amazing and incredible. But when we come back to the basic human communication of language, we are terrible. We
Oh,
really
yeah,
are
absolutely.
terrible at it, and it's something we need to work on.
Well, communication is something that we must practice in our lives. Like I believe in being a wordsmith, and people go, "What do you mean?" Well, have you ever heard of a thesaurus? And they'll go, "What?" Well, there's different ways of saying different things, meaning the
Mhm.
same thing, but it's a different word. But that one word or way you phrase it or put it together in a sentence structure can be offending. Whereas if you learn to say it a different way, you get the end result that you want
Mhm.
instead of some people intentionally want to use the negative ones to get a
Oh, yes.
rise, to get that meaning, and that's life. But at the end of the day, I want to be the person that constantly strives to be a great listener, a great communicator. Like I've been asked so many times at different conferences when I've spoke or I've just been a person attending when we'll have conversations, they'll say, "What would you tell your 18-year-old self?" Listen more than you talk. Just, I wish we would have that driven into our teenage adult brain. Listen more than you talk. It's okay to have in your mindset, I want to say this to Sally next. But majority of my brain, 70% of it, better be focusing on what Sally's saying so that I can have a thoughtful response. So I can keep the communication flow going because I care about Sally and I want our 70-30 relationship to work. So it takes
Right.
work on both our parts, that communication. And if I see body language and somebody looks a little offended, Sally, I'll say to them, I have no problem saying, I just watched your body language change. You stepped back or you did this. Did I say something wrong? Let's talk about it. If my intention was different than what I think your response is. Oh no, it's nothing you said. I just had something pop into my head, or whatever, or, oh yeah, you said this, and oh, okay, let's talk about it. That's communication, caring about the response as much as what you're saying, caring about the fact that you're not out to be a shit disturber. You're out to be a person that's helping uplift people, helping them feel better about themselves. And now, if you intentionally are being a jerk and you want that response and you want them out of your life, I get it. That sometimes happens too. I've had it happen. I'd be lying if I said I didn't intentionally poke the bear. Like I tell my kids, you poke the bear, you're going to get
Be
a
prepared for what's
response.
Yep,
Exactly.
absolutely. I mean, it's fascinating and it's everything. I believe like everything is a choice. And that's it's truly what has been kind of in my life now this past year where I really think everything is a choice. No, not what happens to me, but how I respond, how I communicate, how I ask questions if I don't know, when I just don't say anything and just let it go because it's not worth it or because I don't understand and I don't want to look stupid or whatever it may be, right? Like there's all of those things that we do are choices. And there are the ripple effects to those choices, good or bad, a mix of both sometimes. But we have to also take responsibility for our life and think, okay, I am where I am because of all the decisions I've made, good, bad, indifferent, and no decision is a decision. And just be like, okay, so let's honestly just look at where we're at. Where do I want to be? Do I want to be, what are my core values in life? And then where do I want to live? What do I want to do for work? And what kind of life do I want? And I believe like it's never too late. Right? And to be realistic at the same point, and I don't mean be realistic to not, shoot for the stars type thing, but I mean, I'm 5'4". I was never going to be a professional basketball player. Like I played basketball in elementary school and I was not very good. But there's certain things that we have to be realistic about as well. But it comes back really to those core values. Block out all the outside noise. What are the core values? What's the life that you want to live? And then what are the steps that you need to do? And some of them are going to be hard to get to that desired life and fulfillment and happiness that you want.
And be prepared when you get to that point. People are going to be, people I find will be, well, you used to think that way, or you used to act that way, Sally. Now you're acting this way. Just look at them with kindness and say, you know what? And admit it. Yes, you're right. I used to believe that. But now I've further educated myself. I've further developed myself and whatever it is. And now I believe this. But you are correct. I used to believe that. It'll diffuse situations. Don't argue with them or, don't be that person though that if you do change, you still project the same thing that other people want to hear from you. But yet what you're saying to them is completely different than the reality you're living, because then you're living in a life of a lie too. So just be honest with people. This is what I used to believe. This is what I believe now. And if you can't be on board with that, that's okay. Can we still have, and then you judge, can I still have that relationship? What percentage are we at? Where are we at in our journey of life together? This person and myself. Maybe it's a group. I've left groups that I believed in their value systems, and then I changed. I
Mhm.
grew. They stuck in their same rut. I grew out of it, and that's okay too. It's we are a culmination of choices, which are decisions, like you said, that don't have to be stuck. We can
Right.
continue to evolve and change out of those decisions, and that's a roundabout person. And that's the people I want to be around. That I know that if they're like you challenge politics with your friend
Mhm.
and very polite and respectful, you know what? I got to look more into that. And you may look into it and still have the same thought process. But if you can agree to disagree and walk away, and still 70% of the time you love seeing one another, that's okay. I don't avoid tough conversations with people, and you probably don't either. I just approach it in a certain way. I listen more than I talk. And then when it's time to talk, make sure it's respectful. And if we don't agree, like you said, you know what, I need to research that more. Can we touch base about this later? I raised my kids like that. They'd be like, blah. And I'd be going, you know what? Dad's not in the right state of mind right now to talk about this. Can we get
Hmm.
together in a couple hours and talk about it? No, I need to talk about it right now. Well, I can't. I'm sorry. We'll talk about it in a bit, unless it's a 911 and your hair is on fire. We're gonna wait on this. And that's how I treat my life. Sometimes people will reach out and I'll say to them, I can't talk about that right now. I don't have the mental capacity to be fair to
Hmm.
you and mostly fair to myself, right? Just
Right.
be what you need to be and let people know who you truly are. And there's going to be more than enough people that'll love you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Dwight, before we wrap up a little bit, you had mentioned you have a book and you have mentioned that
Yeah.
you have a podcast. And
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about your book and your podcast and how people can best get in touch with you.
Sure. I don't know if you televise your podcast or not. But if you
It is
do,
video is recorded. Yeah.
this is my book for those people watching. Give a heck
Excellent.
how to live life on purpose, not by accident. Um, it's a book that's the same as my podcast. My podcast is my passion project. My book was my passion project. Starts out with my origin, just like I have my guests on. We break down their origin. I use the same thing in my financial practice, finding out what makes people tick. What are their good things? What are their monsters? And I share that in a very personal way from when I was a young lad with major health issues going into my first entrepreneurship as being a paper boy and going into my first business, going into the challenges I faced, losing important people in my life and how it's reflected and changed my life up to where my podcast is getting released. So I wrote it during the pandemic. It's basically designed, it's not a finance book per se, but there is a chapter in there about how to properly goal set. How many of you have never learned how to goal set? Right? It's very simplistic. It's not a heavy book. It's 150 some pages, couple-hour read, but there's even a chapter in there that talks about your faith, spirituality. There's a chapter that talks about budgeting. There's a chapter that talks about like family values and just different things. So to live a purposeful life, I laid it out on the line. I was vulnerable to let people know I've been through it all and I've still kept on climbing and got to where I am. It wasn't, I created my luck, like you would say, right? And my podcast is the same thing. It's Give a Heck Podcast, right? It's on every single platform. It's on my YouTube channel. I bring on inspiring guests. I think out of 200 and some episodes, I maybe had 4 or 5 people on that are finance based. The rest is all people from all walks of life. You can't even imagine. Like interviewing Robin Williams' chef was the coolest when he talked about just about burning down Robin Williams' house, right? And I've had people like that survived the killing fields of Cambodia. I had a lady on that helped run the Kinder transport train to help people escape during the Holocaust, right? I've had people on that are empath coaches. I've had people on that are AI specialists. Like everybody and anybody, I just want them to, that's my whole mantra. Give a heck. Let's live a purposeful life. And I want to showcase the world of people that are doing it, that are not just all talk, but have action behind what they say. And so that's who I am. And people can find me at giveaheck.com. Just go to giveaheck.com. It's a one-stop shop. It talks about my book. It talks about my finance practice. It talks about my podcast. It tells everything you hopefully would need to know. And you can even, if a person wants to talk to me, there's no cost. You can book a virtual call and we can have a conversation. And yeah, that's pretty much the best way. Go to giveaheck.com to reach me.
Perfect. And I will make sure that we have links for everything, especially giveaheck.com in the show notes below for everybody to make it very easy for everybody. So again, Dwight, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yes, thanks so much for giving me some of your time and investing in me. I appreciate it.